Church family. It's been a few months since we actively put out a news update, and a lot has changed since then. And so we're sharing this with you to provide the most recent updates of what's been happening with us here at Life Church Missions Hub, but also with us as a family as we pursue the call of God on our lives. So I'm going to share the fuller story in just a minute, but to kind of cut to the chase so you know where this is going. The nature of our missions work is about to completely change. On the 17th of October this year, I'm going to be embarking on a new chapter as I start a full-time role with the charity Samaritan's Purse International. This is a really positive change for me and for our whole family, and we firmly believe this is where God is leading us in this next season. It does, however, mean that our full-time Missions Hub work will be coming to an end. So I'm just going to share below the full detail and story of what's brought us to this place and where we're going next, so that you guys don't feel like this is just like it's just been a decision that's been taken out of the blue. But in fact, this is the process of probably about almost a year's worth of weighing and seeking God. And so I'm going to share that story with you right now. So, how have we reached this position, and what's led Rebecca and I to make this decision to cease our involvement in full-time missions ministry and to pursue this new role? Well, the answer to that actually starts way back last year in 2021, around November to December. Rebecca and I started to really sense that there was this shift coming on the horizon. Like every time we prayed and spent time in the presence of God, we were aware that there was this big change looming. We could feel it, we sensed it, but we just couldn't perceive what it was. And so we just got stuck into ministry throughout this year because that's what we're passionate about. That's what we really felt called to do. So we created some great plans for this year and we started to enact those. But we just had this sense that there was something that wasn't quite right, and that we were not quite where we were needing to be because of the direction that God was going to be taking us. And so as a people, and me and Rebecca are really passionate about promoting a lifestyle and actively teaching on it, about we should be a people who seek to hear from God daily. You know, we go to God every day for new bread, for fresh revelation. And for people who teach that and try to live by that, it became really frustrating that we just couldn't seem to get this clarity on where we were going. And what was more is that I suppose we just hadn't foreseen the nature of the change. I'd received a prophetic word from Dr. Sharon Stone back in 2019 when I was down in Windsor, which is where her church is. And she had said that there was this she saw like a total shift and change of direction, and that it was going to be unexpected, and I was going to be asking God, but Lord, I've not finished what you sent me to start. But he was saying it's okay, it doesn't matter where the results come, just that they come. And so I had this real sense that word was for now, but I was thinking, God, what are you going to do for me and Rebecca that's going to totally change us into a different place? And so I had these things that were buzzing around in my head that I was concerned about, that I was trying to get clarity on. And I just wasn't quite hearing clearly enough on what the nature of that change was going to be. We had a few suspicions, but each time God kind of said, nah, it's not that. And then two pretty major things happened. The first one that's, I suppose, most significant is that we as a church engaged in the 30 Days for Freedom program. That wasn't just the congregation, that was us as leaders as well. And in that time, we committed as a church to pursue freedom, to ask God to remove blinders and chains that had kept us in things that were generational and that were lifestyle, and to break those off and see healing and deliverance from those things. And I was no different from that. And I became really aware that whilst I was in this process of seeking God for what was next, that I had blinders of fear over my life. And what they did is that they framed my entire worldview, and they restricted God's capacity through my imagination. So God was free to direct me as long as it was in the frame which I could see. So I could see our ministry, I could see our communities, I could see the direction of our ministry and the kind of ministry that we wanted to be involved in and we felt called to. And as long as the change was within that, God could direct us anywhere. But I was just aware that this frame ultimately was my own imagination and my own limitations. And God was saying, I need you to rip those off so that I can show you truly where I was going to go. And we came to realize as we sought God for the freedom from that, from those blinders, the reason why we hadn't been hearing his answer, because God always answers our prayer, was because his answer was outside of where we could hear. We didn't have the ability to hear what he was saying because we were restricting ourselves and we were saying he can only answer within this framework. And so as those things started to come off and God started to do deliverance on Rebecca and I, and particularly on me, for removing those blinders of fear, because ultimately I was afraid that God was going to say, I'm going to change things up rapidly and radically, and I'm going to send you in a different direction. As he removed those, things started to fall into place. The second thing that happened, other than the 30 days to freedom, was that I had booked with a church that I really love and trust called the Global Prophetic Alliance up in Scotland. I'd booked a prophetic session in which prophets who are known and trusted, they come on a meeting with you and they don't really know anything about you, but they just prophesy. They correct, they direct, rebuke if need to, and just encourage. And so I had this booked for the start of June, and they started to prophesy into my life for half an hour straight. And boy, did I need those blinders to come off, because what God showed me in that half an hour was that there had been things I had been ignoring and directions and things that I'd been called to, that actually were my interpretation or my lens that had been placed on things. So I knew that God had called us into the season of missionary work, and that there was a real testing sense in which God was saying, are you going to be obedient to trust me when your finances aren't dependent on a company or a charity? Or are you going to be trusting me with the house that you're in? All these things. But the reality of what they prophesied to us was that God was calling me specifically to a kingdom ministry, and that God was saying, I called you to build my kingdom, and that doesn't always look like building the church. And so the work that we were actively involved in needed to be readjusted. And so there was a lot more to it than that. There was words about moving into kind of the secular world, but also into business, into kingdom, finance, strategy, all these things. And it took us a while to process that. It totally rocked me. I'm really thankful that I have as wonderful a wife as Rebecca, who was able to walk through that process with me as I was kind of reeling from that. But the amazing thing is God is so faithful. And so I spent, I think, around 2 months grieving the process of realizing that God was challenging me to give up the active church building ministry we do in the communities that surround Life Church, the active day-to-day full-time ministry work. God was saying, I don't want you doing that anymore. I want you to go back into the world of work. And there's more to it than that. But for now, that's all I need to really share. So this comes at a point where the 30 Days for Freedom, I had really been breaking off those blinders of fear that had stopped me from seeing really what God was saying, because actually it was stuff that I didn't want to hear. And then these prophetic words that really challenged me and pushed me into a place where I started to hear from God again and realize that he had a direction for me that was new and different. All that being said, I got sent through then, only a few weeks after that, out of the blue, an application form for a job with Samaritan's Purse. Now, many of you will know, because I'm quite vocal about it, I really love this charity. They're fantastic. They do the shoebox appeal that me and Rebecca absolutely love, and we regularly promote here at Life Church and even wider. And so I'd already had some experience in volunteering with them and working with them in that capacity. But here was an opportunity to work full-time with them in a very different, more intense ministerial capacity and building finance and kingdom. So I kind of thought, well, God, I surrender that to you, and we pushed on that door. And I remember as I was in the car park waiting to go into the interview, I felt like God say, I've swung the door wide open for you on this. And sure enough, I got offered that job, and so that's where I am now. So where does that leave us now for Rebecca and I, and moving into the future with the ministries that we have been supporting? There have been so many different areas of our ministry with Nightlight Cafe, evangelism, outreach, the life groups and ministries, stuff that we run in the church as well. Those things aren't coming to an end, but we will be transitioning our work and our leadership over to others and seeing them rise up and take those things on instead. Now that's going to be a long and gradual process, so there's going to be nothing that's changing radically very quickly. That's going to be something that we're walking through with the rest of the core team, and just making sure that that transition is honouring those who have worked so hard to support us in that vision so far. But from the 17th of October, I will formally be stepping down from the work that I do in the community as a missionary, as will Rebecca. And we'll be focusing on this new chapter of just making sure we're honouring my new employers and giving everything I have to make sure that I'm supporting the kingdom vision that I'll be building through them. And I have to say, I'm really excited about that next step. In terms of practical information for those who maybe are either giving to us through the church, or donating in one form or another, or supporting us just through prayer, please don't stop praying for us. That's always needed, and we're always so grateful for that. In terms of financial giving, we're going to be closing the giving page that's active on the church website, and we'll also be stopping all direct debits. But if you want to do that from that date as well, just for your own peace of mind, we just encourage you to make sure that all that giving ceases. If not, we'll have to then just return anything that's given back to you. But it goes without saying that as we're transitioning into this next season, we don't want to not reflect and not be grateful for the season that has been before it. Make no mistake, there has been so much fruit that has come from the last season. God has done so much and been so faithful in allowing Rebecca and me the space to minister to people, to meet so many people and share Jesus with them, and do things that we never would have been able to do had we not embarked on this last season. And we have learnt so much that has equipped us for what God has ahead of us. Thank you so much for your generosity, your faithfulness in giving and supporting Rebecca and I as we have worked and served the ministry that God has brought us to. I hope that we'll be able to, although be it more informally, keep you up to date in the future with things and changes that happen, particularly as our family grows and ministry will undoubtedly change. We continue to be part of the core team, and so we'll continue to serve and indeed do mission within our church family, just in a slightly different context. Thank you for listening and taking the time to hear this testimony and our latest update. God bless you. Thank you.